Good evening. This is Kimberly, and we are back in the workshop tonight. If you have just stopped scrolling and you have found us and we are in your newsfeed, we welcome you and thank you for jumping on with us tonight. We are continuing, or I am continuing working on this French Provincial server that we have had in the workshop. So we began this from beginning to end stages. And this is kind of what we are going on over in this workshop. And let me grab one thing that I forgot to pull out. And so we went over this. We began cleaning. We always start our projects with prep first. So we always begin our prep. And then we work our way into the finished project. So with that said, this piece was cleaned with our White Lightning cleaner. That is a Dixie Belle product, as you see with the banner in the background. We're premier retailers for Dixie Belle chalk paint, and that is the paint that we feature in these videos and these tutorials. So with that said, I went in here and I have painted this with the vintage duck egg after we got it all clean. Put it in with the vintage duck egg, and I am starting to add some black wax to this. So in tonight's tutorial broadcast, we are working on adding black wax, and that's going to create some of the depth. It's also going to show out some of the detail on this piece. And also, I did complete the top. I used the No Pain Gel Stain in Espresso on the top, and I did brush that on. So I tend to take a chip brush and I apply it that way, so it does put it on a little bit thicker than if you were to rub it on with a rag. A lot of stains go on with a rag, and that's fine. Had I had stripped this to bare wood, I probably would have added it then with the rag instead of or a pad for working with gel stains. And I would have done that on the top. But on this stain, I actually applied with a chip brush. And so that's what you are seeing on the top of this. It does have that natural shine to it. That is just stain on there. There's no top coat or anything of that nature on the top of this piece. So this piece, in my opinion, is now in a very rough state. It's painted, but it's chalked. It's not been sanded down or anything like that. And tonight in this tutorial, we are adding the black wax, as well as we are going to come in here and we are going to do some dry brushing to this piece. We're going to vintage the piece out, make it much more French than what you're seeing here in this video. And you'll kind of see it come to life as we go through this tutorial. So I'm going to show you some of the products I'm going to use here. I've got some drop cloth here with me tonight. And I also got some Manatee Gray. We'll see if I'm going to pop that in there or not. I always bring a few things with me just in case. And also I'm featuring the Best Dang Wax, and we're using black on this piece. You could use brown. And I also have a little artist brush, and it's just a little flat, it kind of gets in the grooves. Maybe if I can get it where you guys can see it. And so that's what I'm using to apply my wax. So, and that is a nice, fine little area to get in these and get the wax where I want my wax. I also, for this project, you're going to need a paper plate. You're going to need some wax. And I also have my handy dandy baby wipes with me and just a regular old chip brush. And that's how we're going to dry brush our paint on. So first things first, we're just going to jump right in and get started because I don't want to waste your time. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend, and now we're back at work, right? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this buffet and I'm going to spin it around because I left some areas in the back open so that we could apply this wax. And I'll pull you in close so you can see how it goes on, and how we're doing that. I might hold this down just so when I spin it, it doesn't hit in the back there. So this is on casters, so which are original to the piece. So don't really even need that up until we come back in and start dry brushing. So I'm going to pull this. This is the back side now of our server. And this is one coat. I only put one coat on it because I was going to dry brush over the top of it. So I'm going to pull you in so maybe you can kind of see that espresso top. It leaves a gorgeous sheen to it, so it's kind of a semi-satin. It's not really gloss. It looks glossier on lives. But anyway, I'm going to bring you down here and try to get you to where you can see. I'm going to start applying some of this wax into the creases of this piece. So I'm going to get in here close. You don't really need to see me as much as you need to see the application. So I'm just going to get right in here. So here's my little brush here. And you can see my wax. Maybe you can see down in there because it is black. You can see I'm starting to get near the bottom here. But there's a lot of wax still left in that canister. So you can get a long ways. I just kind of come in here and dab a little on my brush. You can dab it off on the sides if you need to. Which in this case, I'm going to just go right at it. And so I just come in here and I just hug these grooves. Don't be afraid if you mess up and you feel like you're getting it on the paint. That's what your baby wipes are for. So you can always pull you a baby wipe out. Some people, may top coat first before they add the wax. I don't. I just let it get in there because the paint is chalk paint, and so it's going to absorb and grab that wax, which I want it to grab the wax because you see how much more defined that looks versus over here. So you can't really see it as much as you can where I put that black wax in. So that's going to just create the definition and also bring out some of its natural curves. You see I kind of got off right there. I'm not really concerned about it because I'm going to come back in here and dry brush anyway. I'm going to add a lot of depth and character to this piece by doing my dry brushing as well as adding my wax. And you'll see what I mean as we begin to dry brush, and we will dry brush on the other side. I just kind of left this undone so you guys can kind of see live how it's just kind of pulling now this piece into play for you. So it kind of comes more into view, if you will, when you put your wax on. See how it just kind of plays out. Now you can see the lines well defined now. So that's what I use my wax for, and I'm going to see if we can't get you on the bottom here. Maybe you guys will be able to see. Never mind me, I know I'm a mess, but this I just kind of jump right in. And it's going to come right in. I know you're probably seeing the back of my head here. I'm just going to kind of blend me and wedge me some of this wax in here. So you see how I just dip back into my canister. I don't mind it being a little bit thick because I'm going to move it on. Pull it on down. And if you don't like it, like I said, you can always come in with your baby wipe and pull it back out. I just kind of pull it down where all the natural lines are on this piece. So it just kind of helps define, make some definition, add that depth, which is what we're kind of doing with this wax. Push this out a little bit so I can get in here. So I'm just going to keep flowing it. Obviously, I just left a small area here just to kind of show you guys. I hate jumping ahead and you don't get to see some of the steps that we do here. And for a lot of the newbies out there that this may be your first time seeing these. And so I try to retrace my steps so that you know from start to finish how we got to where we are right now. And so that's why I kind of go over the cleaning process, get my prep on, and every piece I do, I always do my prep, my cleaning. So I did the same here. It came in all the grooves, all the natural lines on the piece. So just kind of accented them with our wax. So I'm going to be able to spin it back around. So it just left a little area there so you guys can kind of see the definition on that wax. Let me see if I can pull you in here. Sorry if I bobbled you. So you can kind of see how that wax is along that edge. And like I said, if you feel like that the wax is a little further out on your paint color more than you like, you can just come right in here. Everything okay? And you can just kind of wipe it back with your baby wipe. So see how I'm just kind of wiping it back? So if you need to and you feel like you kind of got over or something on it, just kind of wipe it back. I'm not necessarily caring because I'm going to come in here anyway, and I'm going to add even some more So, but you can come in here and wipe it all back, get it off, and get it down in the grooves. So that way, maybe you guys can see here. Try to pull you in, maybe. You can kind of see where I was kind of wiping it in. So just kind of spin your, yes ma'am. What's your pup doing? Is he asleep? Okay, yeah, he's asleep. All right. So anyway, sorry about that, you guys. My youngin' going off. So that's how you just kind of clean it up if you need to. I don't mind it being kind of like that. I'm gonna vintage it out. My whole goal is to vintage the piece out anyway. So that just adds a whole lot more character. A lot of times I will take my dirty wet wipe, believe it or not, I will take it where I call it dirty, where it's got the wax on it, and I will use it over my piece in other areas to take that depth and just kind of work it in my paint, what little bit there is on it. And I like that look because it'll grab your brush stroke sometimes and make a neat defined look. So just to show you guys that little tidbit. And now I'm gonna move you back out here a minute. Sorry for bobbling you. Get you over here, pull you back up, and let's get started on some of the dry brushing. But I'm gonna start on the front. I know, it's kind of scary. You start on the front. A lot of times I'll tell, if you're new to doing it, start in an inconspicuous spot, start in the back or something like that, where you don't think it's going to be seen quite as much, and you can go that route. You can just come in here and you can knock some of that wax down. You can see that I just kind of put it on, didn't worry too much about it, and just got going. So if you are here and you are new to our page and you are seeing us on the Facebook Live, we thank you for sharing and liking our page, and we appreciate you being here. And we appreciate the opportunity to come into your homes and show you these techniques using our Dixie Belle paint products. So I've gone ahead and done that. So now I'm going to come in and we're going to do some dry brushing. This, to me, you guys, is just the funnest way to vintage out your pieces. So I've got my little brush here. And I'm going to start, believe it or not, with the drop cloth, which is a really lighter color. So you're definitely going to see a difference. And so this is Dixie Belle's drop cloth. To me, it's, sorry, excuse me for bobbling you, very close to the I want to say the buttercream. So I got me a paper plate. Most of the time I use a smaller one than this. And what I'm going to do, if I can get it out of there, got a little bit of paint on my brush. Not a whole bunch. You see, to me that's a lot of paint, but I'm going to knock it off. And I got me an old chip brush. Nothing fancy. It even looks like it had a little something on it before. Not a problem. So let's hit this. I think this will be the most eye opener is, excuse me for the bobble. I feel like I need to get y'all down here so you can see. I'm fixing to hit the hardware. So you see I did paint my hardware. I always paint my hardware. I just feel like it just is going to make this look super French Provincial, super French country cottage. It's just going to jump at you now doing this. So just knock you some paint off and just start lightly. I just kind of get a real light hand here and just kind of let it kind of flow. See how that is? Now, if you feel like you got a little paint right here that you don't like, you just wipe her back off with your baby wipe. That's all you got to do. I mean, if you're concerned about it. So, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to doll up this hardware. And I'm going to doll it up just using, looky there. See how that just sort of comes alive. No more paint. I'm still using what's on my paper plate, and I'm just hitting the high notes on this hardware. Look at that beautiful vintage hardware. Just kind of, now it's going to start out jumping out and saying, wow, this is beautiful hardware. So this is what we call dry brushing, and this is how you apply it. So now I'm going to also dab me a little more paint on here. Here is my paper plate. You see how much paint I'm knocking off? I'm knocking off quite a bit of paint. I want to get it pretty dry because that's why we call it dry brushing, right? So now I'm going to jump down here and I'm going to hit this one. And I'm just going to hit it kind of lightly. We're going to do the whole piece, but we're just going to kind of come in here and let this hardware sort of sneak out and say hello. Look how gorgeous the curves are on these. I love old vintage furniture. This is why I love it. This is why I love what I do. Look how it just sort of makes that hardware say, it's just gorgeous. I just love it like that. Hey, Pat, how are you tonight? Thank you for jumping on with us and being here. We're showing some dry brushing techniques. And I am working on this French Provincial server. If you were here with us last week, you may have seen us begin that. And so I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to keep going here. And I'm just going to hit this hardware. So I'm just gently, very lightly, just coming over it. I could have bammed this piece out, but I really was waiting for our broadcast tonight to kind of show. A lot of people ask me about, you know, why I don't take my hardware off and, you know, keep it original. Because I feel like I'm making an original all over again. So yes, you see I got a little paint over there. It's okay. Don't panic if you get a little paint on your furniture. Just get your baby wipe back out. Get you a clean spot. And you can just kind of wipe it back off. Believe it or not, I'm going to add this color all over, so I'm not at all concerned about it being on there, because obviously that's what I'm doing tonight. We're just going to doll this thing up. We're going to hit some high notes. We're going to show you some dry brushing. This in here, if you're new, if you've just jumped on, we did just add some black wax here. We have a little brush. Get it over here where y'all can see. And the Easy Peasy wax, the Best Dang Easy Peasy wax by Dixie Belle. This is our paste wax. I call it a paste wax. I just dab my brush in there, just to kind of show you if you just jumped on with us. And I just kind of hit the high notes in here. This is just the curves of the piece. I hit in here, excuse me, and went all over. Just kind of added it just to kind of get that depth before I put on my dry brush in. So that's what you're seeing there. That's the wax. And tonight we are just going to get in here and kind of mess this up. I call it messing it up because I like it. It's going to add multiple layers to the paint. That's why, even though we got one coat coverage pretty well with the vintage duck egg, that's what you're seeing on here. The coverage is really great. Obviously, I have to back off my brush and try to let some of it show through, because when we add this dry brushing, we are going to add another layer to the paint. So by doing that, we're going to end up covering some areas that we may have missed when we were painting the vintage duck egg on. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you for letting us interrupt your evening and jumping in here and seeing what we're fixing to do here with our dry brushing. Now I'm just going to kind of turn my brush on its side. I'm just going to add, got a little too much paint for me. I'm just going to come in here and start what I call sort of dirtying up the piece. So I'm just going to kind of trick it out, vintage it out. So you can do this in multiple ways. You can go up and down, all around. Just use your imagination. You're going to start seeing some of the natural curves. This is kind of a pretty bow front piece. You're going to see some of those natural curves just start to pop out at you on this piece as I start going over it. So I am using Dixie Belle drop cloth right now. And I'm just going to come over here and add some color now. Some lighter tone. Just play with it. Don't be afraid of dry brushing. It's really kind of fun. It adds a whole new element to your piece. And in my case, I feel like it just really ages your piece, vintages your piece back out. Not that your piece isn't already, but when we paint them, we make them look pretty new again. So that's why some of these imperfections that you see on it are intentional, because I like to see that vintage look just kind of popping out of these pieces. So I'm gonna hit all the high notes. So I'm trying to hit all the areas, dry brushing it. So see, you can see not only is it gonna have that lighter layer, but it's also gonna have that darker layer popping out underneath of it. So it's gonna give you a really, really cool looking vintage feel for this French Provincial. So this is what we're working on, the French Provincial server. Now I'm gonna hit the high notes. So you probably, let me get you up here where you can see, sorry about that. So you're gonna start seeing some of the high notes on here where I'm just hitting it across and letting them kind of shine through. And I am coming over the top of my vintage duck egg and allowing it to just kind of show. Pull this open so that we can just kind of hit the high notes here. So just let it flow, just kind of do your own thing with it. When you're dry brushing, it just kind of comes to life a little bit. You'll be adding multiple colors and textures to it as you go. So there's really kind of no rhyme, no reason. So there's no wrong way or right way to add your dry brushing, really. Just knocking off that paint and coming in here. Maybe I can get you in a little closer. Let's see. Maybe I can get you in a little bit closer here so you can kind of see how that's looking on that piece. So I'm just gonna, let's see, hopefully y'all can see that. Hope everyone's having a blessed evening. Past few days with the cool weather has been just lovely. Cool in the mornings, sitting outside having your coffee. Really feels great. Watching the wildlife coming and going. I'm gonna get in here and do a little bit more. So it's okay if you want to kind of drag it and make it a little more pronounced. I mean, it's all, you know, your preference when you're working with them. So that's kind of the technique I'm just kind of throwing at you tonight. Just gonna get in here, dry brush me some of this color in, and make this French Provincial server look worn again, since I did put a new coat of paint. Now this wax underneath, it is still not dried or cured, if you want to say that. It's not completely cured yet, but that's okay. It'll cure overnight, and it's not inhibiting me from being able to go in here and add my dry brushing. So it's not going to affect your work too much. So the harder you or lighter you press on the pressure that you put on your brush is the amount of paint that actually sticks to your already painted surface, if that makes any sense. So the lighter you back off and then the harder you push, obviously, is what controls the amount of paint that's hitting the surface. If that makes any sense. Hopefully it does to you guys. So now you're starting to see that this actually had a bow front, actually has, you know, curves to the front of it. And before, in the painting, you can barely see down here those curves until I hit the high notes, and then they kind of stick out more. So that is also another reason why I do the dry brushing, because it helps those areas sort of pop out and show up. So I'm using the side of my brush. See, my paint's getting kind of thin on it, so I'm going to have to get me a little more. So, and I've got a fan running, so it does dry your paint a little bit as you're applying, so it will dry your paint if you're running a fan. And if your temperature is high, so it'll take it, you know, off your brush a little bit. But less is more sometimes when you're first applying, till you sort of get the hang of it. And really, for me, I don't feel like there's any wrong way. You just enjoy it. If I get a little black wax that's still wet on my brush and I move it around on my piece, I'm fine with that, because that just kind of creates a whole nother layer in the look. So that's kind of, I see that's what's happening some, and I am fine with that, because all these pieces are unique in their own way. So just let it flow. you know, piece will kind of talk to you as you dry brush, and it'll just start coming. And you'll just start seeing a whole different look out there on your piece, and just start creating a well definition. I pull the drawers out a little bit so I can hit the high notes of that drawer, so that all those curves on the top of this drawer show up, because I want to be able to see them. So again, it's all in your preference, all in what you like. So again, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to hit those drawers so that I can see the curves on the top of this drawer. You see how they just kind of blend until you hit them with the paint. And then it's like you can see those nice curves when you pull it out. So you're seeing those multiple layers being added. Now I may come back in with some gray, but I'm liking this. Like I say, it's always you know, the preference of the owner, really, of the piece. So that's why I'm trying to get this kind of completed, and this particular broadcast and tutorial on this particular piece. Yes, I did this, and I did it on purpose. I like for it to have some weathered look to it. So I will go in here and do the same thing as I work my way around the piece. But I think you can kind of see how it's just kind of vintaging it out more as we kind of turn this piece. And I know that's dark, so let me push that up so we can kind of, let me do this in, push one end up and one end out. Let's see, there we go. Just so that I'm not hitting in the back there. I'm gonna spin it around, and so like if you get a couple of spots on it and you think, oh, I don't like those brush strokes, you know, they're showing up, or it looks like I messed up right there, you can always just take your baby wipe and wipe it back. So it's just that simple. So just, you know, that's why I say baby wipes are very handy when you are working with our chalk paint. They're handy with the wax, and they're handy with the paint. So, and dry brushing. So you can kind of get a feel for it. So I'm just going to kind of come in here and dab this on in different places with a little more paint. So that's kind of the fun part of dry brushing. I'm just kind of running it over this really lightly. Let's see if I got you where you guys can see. So I'm going to come this way on it, and I'm going to just kind of hit some of these high notes for the waxes, of course, because I don't mind. And see, like I say, if you get some spots like that and you don't like that brush look on there, just get your baby wipe and wipe it back. See how it just kind of takes it back? So you really aren't making any mistakes. So don't be afraid to just jump in there and throw you some dry brushing on. Let me see if I can get, let's see where you guys can see. You can come in here and hit this edge. Notice I'm turning my brush on its side when I want to hit the edges. Turning it on its side. And I will come in here a lot of times and just add. Let's see if I can get some more paint here for me. And since this hasn't been sanded down, hasn't been sanded yet, a lot of times I'll come in here with our sanding disc and I'll knock that roughness off. But when I'm dry brushing, I leave the roughness there because it's going to catch my brush bristles and it's going to create some lines in it. So it's going to catch my bristles. So I started off small, and then I just kind of work it in my paint. So I'm just trying to vintage it out. Again on the side, pulling that side in. And now I'm going to do it here at the bottom. So it's just pretty simple. Just kind of play with it, work it where you want it. And like I say, right now we're just putting on the, you can kind of see it coming, I know it's a little shaded because of this is here. So it's a little shaded as to how we get that dry brush in. So let me just pull this back around. So you can just keep adding or pulling off, just depends on how strong you want it. And in here, you can hear it's rough in here because that is just the regular chalk paint you're hearing. So you hear it has that rough chalky feel, And I leave it like that so it'll grab my paint. So when I'm pulling across it like this, if I had paint on there, so dry brushing, knocking some paint off, I'm just going to come in here because I wiped it back a little bit with my hand, and I'm going to just add some of that that drop cloth in here. So I'm just going to put it right over the top of my paint. So what that's going to do is just create another layer in there. And then you can come back in with some more black wax, which a lot of times I will come in with my black wax. You could come in with black wax and add it over it too, and just keep building those layers and adding that depth and texture. So that's basically how you do your dry brushing, and also adding your wax to it. I know there's probably no need to keep you guys here all night to show you that technique. But if you were here with me tonight, I thank you for jumping on with us and being here with me. And hopefully I'll get this out as we have a new project rolling in on Thursday. And we'll get started on that project for my client on our broadcast in our next broadcast on Thursday evening, hopefully. And so we will see you soon. Hope y'all have a blessed evening, and we'll see you on Thursday at 8 o'clock. Bye for now. Bye, guys.